And it says we're live.
We are
Good
live.
morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And hello to this chat. Today I have a guest with me, Zack from the Tiger's Abyss. Hello,
Hi.
hello. How are you?
I'm good. Just
Good.
yeah.
Let me just check if it's on YouTube. Yes, I can see us. All good. Okay. This is actually not the first time that we're on a live stream together, but the first time on my channel. The first time was over on Shane's channel, where you mopped the floor with me on Tarot Jeopardy. Like 1,000,000 to nothing.
It was I don't know whether to be like super humble or to be like to just like.
Well, it was well deserved. I mean, the questions were not easy, and I mean, you were able to answer pretty much all of them. And so that just shows that you have learned a lot and like you study a lot, which is good. And I mean, that's why you and I do our little study group, so I can learn something from you. Yeah. And today we're just going to chat about whatever kind of stuff. But I do have one question I've been meaning to ask, and I never did it. Your channel name, The Tiger's Abyss.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything behind it? Story or reason?
I feel like I say it a lot, because ever since it's because I was inspired by this. The Marielle temperance card. That's what inspired it. That's usually what it is. And the book, the main thing is called Landscapes of the Abyss. And so I was like, there's a lot of tigers. I like tigers. And then I just see that temperance. I'm like, you know what? How about? And just somehow I just came up with like the Tiger's Abyss. So yeah, and that's where it came from.
Yeah, I thought it had some connection to the Marielle.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really see anyone watching. At least no one's making themselves known so far. So we'll just chat and people can watch later. Yeah. Okay. Something that I would like to know is like what even got you started in all of this, like spirituality, tarot, astrology, whatever. Like, do you remember when you first kind of got interested in these things?
I think the first time, just growing up Christian, being super interested in like the weird shit that always happened in the Bible and mythology in general, just really interested me. Studying symbols and stuff like that, I was always fascinated by that. But for the most part, really getting into tarot, I was first more drawn to playing cards and, looking at playing cards and collecting playing cards. And then, and then slowly I got my first deck, and I didn't really like study it. I just liked the imagery, as they say. I just got it for the art, and and then just over time, and then I just collected for like 2 years, and it was only until like when was it? It was for sure like when was it? I don't know when, but it was around the time I dove into the Marielle, and that's when I started getting interested in everything. And the Marielle has so much of everything in it, so it's like, okay, let's look up what the Kabbalah is and what the Merkaba is. What are these letters she's talking about? And then astrology was always referenced. I was like, okay, I know, I heard of her, of her. And astrology just kind of just became like okay, you keep showing up. I guess I got to learn what you're about. Let's get into you then. And that's how I got into that. But for the most part, yeah, just being into spirituality in general, but even though I'm super, super skeptical of all that, it's still to this day in a way,
If you hear any noises in the background, for some reason my cats just decide to play now. I thought after breakfast they would wind down, but not. So, oh well.
They sense my Aries energy coming through.
Hey, do you mind, people? So we got a few people here. Backyard Naturalist Tarot lurking in the back. Hello, good morning, good
Hello.
night, wherever you
Hello.
are. Sid is here. Hello.
Sid.
So how long ago did you get your first tarot deck?
It was back in, I was still in high school. But I didn't, like I said, I didn't read with it or anything. I, what was it? It was, we went to an antique store and there was a deck of the Rider-Waite-Smith there. And I was like, I want it, let's get it. They also had a Marseille. My hair is crazy. I might just go and fix it up right now, but I don't. Here we are. I don't want to put gel in it because then I have to rinse it out. Whatever.
Just
Anyways, yeah. And so yeah, and I got that deck, but I didn't really do much with it. I didn't even know how valuable it was. Where is it? If I even have it right near me. I don't want to get it. But it's the pink Ankh Rider-Waite-Smith back.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know if it was but there was a concept of highly sought after tarot, collectible tarot. What a blushing fool was, and then I learned what it was, and I was like, oh. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, it's a blushing. Okay, whatever. Blushing fool. Who cares?
Yeah. When I got into tarot, I had no idea that there was collectible stuff, and I thought these are just decks and you can just buy them, and that's it. It was when the Atlantis Tarot was then out of print that I learned, oh, that's a thing that can happen. I just thought, just like books, they're always available and there's going to be reprints or whatever, or there might not even that many people these days that have them. But that's because I'm from East Germany, where spirituality, religion, and all of that wasn't really a thing. Mm-hmm. So not very many people did it. And so I didn't think that this would ever be out of stock. But of course, I hadn't accounted for West Germany and all the people doing stuff there. So that was a bit different. Okay. Sip, everyone. Make sure you stay hydrated.
Oh, that's true. I have my little computer on it. It has it's saying ongoing alert, and it says a heat wave, and I'm like, it's barely 102. Give me a warning when it reaches 110.
Oh, okay. Yes, never thought decks would not be available. Yeah, I had to learn that. But thankfully, all of the decks that I ever wanted to have in my collection ended up in my collection. So something that, my unicorns that I was looking for were at some point the Atlantis Tarot, because that I missed out on that one. Then the Arcus Arcanum. That ironically was the very first deck I ever came in contact with, because over here also these teen magazines, and I think I was still in elementary school, and maybe 5th grade or something, and they did have a major arcana kind of thing in the magazine, and they put movie stars and singers onto the cards. And I think Gwyneth Paltrow and Brad Pitt, it was the time when they were together. They were on the lovers card. And I think
what? They were together?
Yeah, around the time of the movie Seven that they did together.
Oh.
It was ages ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I never thought they
I'm
dated.
A bit older.
Wow. Wow.
And
wow, okay.
I think Steven Tyler from Aerosmith was on the Devil card, I think. Or Axl Rose, one of those. And on the bottom of each of these cards, they had a tiny little image of an actual tarot card, and that was the Arcus Arcanum. And I didn't even know anything about that at the time. So I just cut that out and I kept that. But since it was really tiny, I couldn't do anything with it. And so it was ironic that would be one of the decks that I would be searching for years later and finding it. Yeah, the movie Seven, that was when was it? 94, 95, something like that, ages ago.
I can't remember.
And
I just like it.
And so I think, in elementary school, that was the first time I got in touch with some tarot stuff. And also it was in the 90s, at least in Europe, we had the Satanic Panic. And of course, in the teen magazines, they always talked about how dangerous it is to fall into some kind of cult, and that there are these kids who worship Satan, go to graveyards and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh my God.
that was the time when I got in touch with all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, did it ever like was anyone ever like arrested or like put on death row during your satanic night?
Um, Not where I was from. No, my grandma was very worried that I would become one of those kids that would only dress in black and feel the veg mats and be like all moody and stuff. That eventually, when she saw that that wasn't me, that I would still be myself, she kind of came around, and then she started talking about like her own kind of stuff, which no one in the family really knew about
Hmm.
because like I said, in East Germany, that wasn't a thing, and people really kept quiet about that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And on my 13th birthday, that's when I announced to my family, listen, I'm a witch. That's what I am. That's what I believe in. That's my path. Deal with
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Yeah.
then she slowly came out telling me about her gifts, which was like dreaming and like seeing the future in her dreams. And it was
Mm-hmm.
always in those nights between Christmas and January 6th.
Huh.
And where one night equals 1 month in the upcoming year.
Oh,
And
that's
so she would have these dreams, and she would always know like how many people in her circle would die the next year. She
oh,
didn't know who, but she knew how many
how many?
funerals there would be.
Oh, was
And
she?
for example, when my mom was pregnant with me, we didn't have ultrasound to see what it was
Mhm.
back then. And so, in the night of July, my grandma dreamt of a girl with long dark hair. And so, I was born in July. I have dark hair. And so, yeah, she saw me coming. And when my aunt was pregnant, she saw a blonde boy carrying the groceries home for her. And my cousin is was born blonde. So, yeah, like
How
she could see those kind of things in those nights.
how
So,
interesting.
yeah. So, is
Fact.
there anyone in your family who's also kind of spiritually besides just like religious church?
No, most of it's all just from what I know, it's all just Christian, either Protestant or Catholic or something along those lines. There's another option, but I'm not sure what the other one was. Because I'm like, I want to say we were Protestant, but I'm probably mistaken. There's probably a different one that we were called. But anyways, it's all the same, honestly.
Well,
uh,
how does your family feel about you doing tarot and all of that?
I have yet to hear anything like any backlash or anything problematic or any like upset, so far from it.
Mhm.
They know it's just not like really talked about. I don't, yeah.
Do
On
they
my
ask you
mom's,
for readings?
uh, no, on my mom's side, there might be more like cousins and maybe more curiosity on that side, but on my dad's side, probably not. You know, except other than my cousins, which are more my age. So yeah, that's me. But mostly we're more superstitious, afraid, scared, you know,
Oh my God.
of of spirits,
Mm,
yeah, of demons.
yeah.
Which honestly, it's like maybe we should look more to therapy than praying. That,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's so sad that religion, from what I have experienced, is all about fear and just keeping people in line through fear. Like if you do this, you're gonna go to hell and
It's
all of
all
that.
about, yeah,
It's just so sad.
yeah, it's
Like
all about it's all about, oh my god, I keep messing with my hair, but anyways, I need to get it cut. But anyways, it's all about, I'm afraid of my soul going to hell. Oh my god, I'm afraid of my child and my nephew's soul and my grandbaby's soul going to hell. I'm gonna make sure and save as many people as I can. And that's what they fear, and that's what they push, at least here in the
Mm,
US, and where it's all about saving souls and
mm,
keeping them from eternal damnation and pain and suffering in the
yeah.
afterlife. And it's like, but do you really know? Like,
Mm.
You
And I
know,
mean, if we're all going to hell, then at least we'll be all together,
right?
right?
I'm like, who's this? I mean, like, can't we just like do it like a sentencing? Like, okay, like fine, like 5 days. Okay, fine. You know, or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's mm.
Yeah. So, like, with everything that you are reading about and like learning, is there any particular field of interest for you? Something that you're interested in more than others?
For the most part, no. I guess not. There's like I don't know. I just find it all interesting equally. Like, but the thing is that I just hyper fixate on one part of on like one thing at a time, I guess,
Mhm.
until I get disinterested and I move on to something else. Like for a while, I was really curious about Babylonian astrology, and I got like a few books on that, and like the history of the zodiac and like how it came to be and what was the name. And I got a few books on that, and because I got I don't know what it was that I was watching on the Marielle. I can't remember, some video live stream. I'm not sure. And they were talking about, you know, the Marielle and like the astrology in there, and I was like, no, that's not really what it is. I don't know what she's trying to say here. She's trying to make it up like, I think what I got hung up on was the Scorpio and Aquarius, and how it was like the eagle used to be the symbol for that, but like I'm looking at the constellations and I'm like, how could that be if like the eagle was nowhere near the constellation of Scorpio? So like, how could that, like, am I missing something? Like, what do you mean, Marielle? And of course, you know how the Marielle book is written. It's like, you know, she gives you like a little thread of barely anything, and you have to go off on that. You know, so it's like, oh, let me try and figure this out, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
But it's based on Western astrology, I guess.
it's
Is it?
it's like
I don't know.
I'm
I
gonna
don't have the Marielle. I know it from your channel. So,
it's like I'm gonna say, okay, so I need to really look at the history of astrology, because if I'm not mistaken, from what I know so far is that astrology came from Mesopotamia, you know, that area way back then. And that's like not India, but it's not Egypt or Greece. And it's like very old. And like I looked at um, Demetra George, her book on ancient astrology, and like she points out that like, oh, in Babylonian astrology, and I'm conflating Mesopotamia with Babylonian, there's like specific differences. There's like Babylonian, Akkadian, etc., etc. So she says that they didn't use the elements, because that's one of the things that I was hung up on. I was like, wait, Scorpio used to be for air, but Aquarius is water. Like, where are you getting this, Mary? And this is one of the things that I'm like, okay, so it doesn't really matter. Mary White is just, it doesn't matter what she's saying here, because the Babylonians, they didn't use the elements. They didn't have that concept. That was in Greece, the four elements. And so what the Babylonians did, they used the four directions instead, the four winds, you know, whether a sign, like whether something was going to happen in one direction or another, it was based on that, you know, because I was like, they had to use the four, because it wasn't, they knew they saw the 3x4 pattern in the zodiac. So, you know, and that's where I got that. And I was just, yeah, you know, it's things like that that I just get like down into
yeah.
a rabbit hole, and I'm just like, okay. And then like I get bored with it, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm onto something else. You know.
And then I throw a real sky astrology at you.
Oh gosh, yeah, that I got with the Journey into Egypt deck, and reading that guidebook. That book was amazing on the app
Mm.
that I read. I was like, oh my god, still don't understand it. Still can't really fully read with it comfortably, but it's still great. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here. But I'm like, let's learn this first. You know? Let's
Well,
learn.
like all your life, you've been an Aries. So how do you feel about being a Pisces now?
I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, see,
I,
we just get this question here. What signs are you both? We're different signs. Like in Western astrology, you are an
I'm
Aries,
an Aries, yeah.
but in real sky, you're a Pisces.
Yeah.
And in Western, I would be a Cancer, and in real sky, I'm a Gemini. And so that's like real sky, for those who don't know, that's what's actually in the sky. Like the Western astrology system hasn't been updated because the universe is expanding. So all the formulas used back then when that was put in place are not really up to date. So they don't really account for what's really in the sky. But there
It's
are apps that you can use to see what's like where the sun and moon and everything is. Like
mhm.
Stellarium is a good one. That's
It'd be
one that I use.
I'm pretty sure I bet you more astronomical rather than astrological
Mhm.
apps would be much more useful for that. Um, but I think the I think it's not necessarily the expansion, even though that is happening. It's the wobble of the
Hmm.
Earth. So way back, going to Marielle, that's what she talks about. I was like, okay, what is this? And so essentially, like, it's based on like when the sun rises on the spring equinox, if I'm not mistaken. So like it used to be way back then, it used to rise in Taurus. I think that was like the dawn of civilization. And then slowly over millennia, it moved into Aries, and now right now it's in Pisces. And then it'll eventually move into Aquarius, but that will take a few more millennia. I think it'll take quite a
Hmm.
while for it to move. And that's when people say like the age of Aquarius, and that's again very far off. But we're starting to
Yeah.
see the shifts in that apparently. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's why but again it's because it moves. Essentially everything is moving, so like and it's based on the seasons, so it's like the seasons are affected by the angle of the earth. And so like spring is now starting when it's Pisces, and that's why, yeah. So my
So
birthday,
when you look at your Pisces chart, like, can you see yourself in there?
I have to really look at it. Like I read up on um what the first like really in-depth look that I looked at my big three. I read that and I was like, that's me. But I would like a real sky astrology take on that. But I feel like I'm not sure. I'd have to look
Hmm.
more into it. I'd have to see. But I guess in terms of Pisces, I guess the dreaminess, the ADHD might, the and I don't know what else, but
Has your rising changed?
I think it did. I think I'm a Libra rising. Did I?
Well, now you're a Libra rising in real sky. I remember that one, but I don't know what
Right.
you were in
Yeah.
Western.
Yeah. That would make sense because I mean, I guess because I have like a good connection with Libras, but I'm not. I hesitate to see everyone's other side. I guess that's the big thing about Libras is that I don't know. Well, I don't know. I'd have to really look at that because I think of my Scorpio rising, and I really like that.
So Tarot and Witchery is asking, what are your big three?
I so for Western astrology and the incorrect astrology, it would be Aries Sun, Capricorn Moon, and a Scorpio rising. And I think I'm a what was my moon moved to? I think I'm a Sagittarius moon in real sky astrology,
Hmm.
which I'm like, okay, I'm not sure. I'm like I have to because I feel like it's so different. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have to look into it.
Yeah. Like for me, the biggest thing was like I grew up as a Cancer, knowing, okay, I'm a Cancer, that's why I'm so emotional and all of that kind of stuff. And I can really relate to that. And the whole introvert thing, like being like in my shell and all that kind of stuff, that made sense. And then comes this real sky astrology telling me I'm a Gemini, and that was such like a mind fuck for me because like I didn't want to be a Gemini because my cousin is a Gemini, and I saw that and I was like, man, I don't want to be like him. No, mm-mm.
But then,
And
but
his
if you
mother
see,
was a Gemini.
but if you see that they're not Geminis, though, right? Because in real
Yeah,
Sky,
now I know that.
you know,
But
so they would have been. It's the
they would
Taurian
be
Taurus,
Taurus now, maybe.
right?
Yeah.
Moving it back, right?
Mhm.
Unless
Well, it kind of depends because that's
it
also
depends on
like
the
the thing with
degrees. It's
real
on,
sky.
yeah,
They have different
because of that
sizes,
extra,
the
yeah,
signs.
yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, I
and
think Taurus. I think Taurus is a pretty big sign, right?
yeah, Taurus, Pisces is a really big one. Taurus, and
Mhm.
I think Virgo is the largest one.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
And Scorpio is actually the shortest. I think it's only 6 days. And in real sky, we have 13 signs, not just 12.
yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, for me, all of a sudden being a Gemini, at first I was really like, no. But now I'm coming to terms with it, and I see so much of myself in that, and like my analytical way of thinking, and the way that I like take on information and process it, and all of that. And also kind of like my upbringing in a way makes a lot of sense with my Gemini side and why I resonate so much with that because I'm like a military baby kind of, and I was like really brought up in that kind of sense with like that discipline and all that stuff. And then of course with East Germany I had to be one way in public and there was another way that I could be at home, so always these two sides. So that makes a lot of sense with my personality.
Yeah, my Venus in Western astrology is in Gemini, and at first I was concerned, but over time I've come to like be chill with it, and I've come to realize that Geminis are. I'm like, I guess Venus Gemini. I guess that just makes I like that more. Like communication, I hail as like
Mm.
yes, uh and I also like symmetry. I found when I was very young I liked symmetrical things a lot. I found that, uh but I think in general everybody likes even patterns and symmetry and things,
Hmm.
you know that's why those oddly satisfying videos are very popular. uh the what else, there's another thing about Gemini, but I can't remember what else. Oh right, like learning, but like I'm not sure. I
Hmm.
have a weird love-hate relationship with learning. So yeah.
So speaking of learning, like you also do a lot of tarot journaling, like when you learn, like you actually sit down and you write about the cards. So what's your process with that? Like how do you actually study?
I well, I really don't. I just take notes. That's all I do.
But that's a
I
process too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not all the time like, if I do a reading, if ever I do a reading on anything, which is very rare, I will write it down. I'll say what cards, I'll say the spread and do it on all that and write notes and details on all that. But I'm not really doing any like a whole page on a single card, like my thoughts and feelings on it. I it's mostly just study mode. It's more like, this means this. This is about
Mm.
this. This is referencing this. Take note on this. This is like that, and that's dash and bullet points. It's very a lot of that, and mostly on what I'm reading alongside it, not just the card by itself.
Mm.
So yeah.
And once you've written it down, do you ever go back to your notes or like it's
Oh,
written down, put away or?
oh no, no, no. I absolutely. That's the point. Like, it's to compile and composite everything into one thing, so I can go to that instead of going across multiple books trying to find this one thing. But of course, I really should type it out rather than write it because my handwriting is garbage. It's
Well, as long
good.
as you can read it.
It's not illegible sometimes. I'll say that. Yeah. Even though I can write, and I think I don't know. I'll have to see. I'll have to show people. See.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried the whole like tarot journaling thing, and I started a few, but I think the only like journaling process I ever really did from start to finish was when I did the past life workbook with the 21 spreads, and really writing down everything that I found in those readings. But other than that, like I can't sit with something, write it down, and like I do that for 3 days, and then I get bored and I can't do it, which is why I started this whole other process of like writing on the cards. This is something like back in the days I never would have dared, like writing on the cards. Oh my God. Especially since now we know about like out of print decks. Eventually they will be out of print. But I saw this from the Golden Dawn, like they do that.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna say, you know, the fear of out of print, I think, should be diminished. I think in a way, because there's so many decks that are being back in print, but some decks that need to be back in print, and there sometimes I think I've talked about this before. There's kind of sometimes a need for some decks to go out of print. I don't think all the decks need to be in print.
Yeah.
Like, do we really need another Rider-Waite-Smith?
Do we have enough? Are the 2 million we have enough?
There are enough people. We don't need another different variant on the sepia tones. Like, thank you.
Yeah, I even trim out of print decks. Like, I got my Arcus Arcanum, which is somewhere around here, and it had those white borders, and it just didn't feel right, so I had to cut them off. And that was actually the very first deck I ever trimmed, was an out of print deck, and I only did it because I saw a video of someone who had done it, so I knew what it would look like. And once I did that, I was so happy with it, because it just, to me, it always feels like taking a picture out of a frame, freeing it from all of that. And so it just made me want to work with it so much more. And I like the idea of personalizing decks, like really making it mine. And so that's why, like, when I write on my cards, like that's really mine, and I have like all my notes and stuff, and I keep adding to it. And I do have the same deck twice, once with notes on it and once without, and I always go back to the ones where I have my notes, because that just feels more like me. It's kind of like I'm working with it all the time. And the other one, I guess it photographs well without the notes, but that's about it. It's the backup in case anything should ever happen, which I hope it won't, because then I guess this makes it more valuable than like an out of print thing. Because if I, like, all the work that I put into this, like writing all those notes here, that took quite a bit of time. And so if that ever goes missing or anything happens to it, like, I would have to start all over, and I don't know if I would remember everything that I wrote down on these cards. So yeah, that would be like a tragedy. Like an out of print deck, I can buy that anytime.
It seems like, you know, it'd be interesting to like see, or the idea of like having an annotated tarot, and just when you're long gone, and someone just finding it and seeing the notes there, even though they don't have the book, like, you know, they see what you wrote on there and what that means and all that. That would be, that's something right there. I wish I had, you know, because when I got my deck, I could tell it was old. I didn't really know my Rider-Waite-Smith that I got, and it was like, but there was no notes on it or anything like that. Which, you know, and it's always like, you know, do you prefer? Are you okay with like books that you get that are secondhand having notes and highlights and underlines and all that in there?
Now, yes. Back years ago, probably not, unless like for university, if I got some secondhand books that already had notes, that of course made it a lot easier. But for like tarot stuff, I was kind of like, I would like to like put my own notes in or highlight my own thoughts. But nowadays I'm like, okay, yeah, this someone else has already been through that, so now I'm okay with that. So
Yeah.
that's also like an interesting thought process, like how that changes.
Yeah. It's sometimes they're useful. Other times I'm like, there's been a few times where I've read it and I'm like, why did you underline that? Or I'm like, okay, you got something out of it. Okay,
Hmm.
let's keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually like even with my books, I don't really dare to uh like go in with like a marker or anything because there's still something that like I have to pass that threshold and be like, okay, let's just take a pen, let's just do this and
Yeah.
work with it. Um, I don't really know what's stopping me because it's just a book and it's there to work with. So yeah, I think like now that we do our studies, I mean, granted, I'm writing into the PDFs on a computer and I can always delete that, but I find it very satisfying to then go back and look at my markings and notes and questions that I put in the margins and everything. And just like with this deck that I keep adding to, like going over it again and then maybe having another thought, putting it in there, and then eventually kind of seeing my thought process, like making that visible.
hmm hmm
That would,
showing
yeah,
your work, as they say in math
yes,
class.
yeah.
Many
Oh my God,
many a student has failed, hasn't gotten any points because they didn't show their work.
no.
uh, but yeah, mostly I do the highlighting at least because it's like I was hesitant at first because like, oh my god, the book, I want to keep it nice. But then over time I'm like, I need to find this thing. Where is it? I can't find it. Oh my god!
Hmm.
And like, here it is. Okay, then I bust out the highlighter. I'm like, I'm not losing you
Yeah.
again.
Well, something that I do that makes it a little bit easier to do that is like I have these things that you can just put in everywhere and
Oh yeah.
you can also like take them out again and like you can actually see through them. So
Yeah.
it's like that is like the easing into it kind of thing.
hmm
And like the first time I saw this was actually with the Book of Mormon, because like the only religious friends that I have that are really into religion are Mormons.
hmm
And of course, they gifted me a Book of Mormon, and this was like 20 years ago when I actually came to some of their services. And uh, in order to kind of get me to join them, they also gave me some presents, and they have these stickers of some of the things that happen in all of their scripture.
hmm
And they're also kind of see-through, and you can put them on top of the scripture. I'm sure they have that for Bible stuff as well.
I've
And
never seen
like,
that for the
putting,
Bible, but that's cool. I'm pretty sure there is.
putting that in and having these nice chapter markers with like gold on it and stuff. So of
hmm
course I put all of that in. So I have a really cool looking Book of Mormon. Not
hmm
that I ever read it, but so that was like the first time I actually kind of worked with the book. And of course, when I see theirs, they have everything underlined and marked and everything. And I'm like, okay, they actually work with their scripture stuff. Like
Yeah.
they don't just be like, ah, holy grail, and like don't do anything with it. No, they actually work with it. And
Yeah.
if it's completely beaten up, they get another one.
Yeah. That's those are the good ones.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What's in here? I don't like the RWS, but when I finally got one, it helped me learn a lot easier. Yeah, it took me a while to get around liking the RWS one because the first one that I had, like all the faces were just like little dots and they were all red.
Mhm.
And whenever I would take out the cards, I would just focus on all of these dots, and that just got distracting. And so now I finally have some uh, deck that is like nicely colored in and everything. So I actually enjoy working with that one. I think the first one that I really enjoyed working with was the Golden Art Nouveau
Mhm.
RWS version, and because that just has like the facial expressions are actually visible, and with all of those little dots, like I could never like facial expressions are important for me because that's also going back to what I learned, like how to study people and how to know who to trust, who not to trust, and if it's all
Yeah,
just
it's
made
not like
out of dots, I can't see anything.
was it like let me see, like that?
Is that just looks like yellow kind of? I don't see any dots in there, but
I'm talking
yeah,
about
it was
the girl in white, how her face is.
yeah. Yeah, you can't see anything. Like, is she happy? Is she sad? Is she
She's like
angry? You
she's like
can't really.
yeah, it's like just four dots on a face. It's slightly
Yeah.
smiling, but it's like yeah.
Yeah, my first one was the one that had this back, and I
Mhm.
got the like I don't know if you can see, but she's made up of just red dots. That's all it is. It doesn't really show that
Mhm.
here,
Mhm.
and that's just it reminds me of someone who has like the measles or something, and
That's the blushing
like a
fool.
really bad
Watch out for
rash
blood.
all over the body. It's distracting. I can't with that. So yeah, and then I got this version on eBay. This is a 1984 version, and it's not laminated,
Mm.
and that's just the feeling of that.
Mm. I got the.
So how are you with cardstock? Like, is that important for you?
It is. I used to not care about it, but I just got this deck.
Ooh, what's that one?
This is I should show the book rather.
Ah, the Buddha Tarot.
Yeah, the Buddha Tarot. Gorgeous imagery. I think this is one that I might trim just to
Mhm.
see if, because honey, however they cut these cards, Schiffer Red Feather used to be good at. They were hitting it out of the park. Byzantine Tarot. Maybe I'm not sure. I need to look up on Byzantine. I think that was already printed, but the company that was going to produce it and then like Red Feather picked it up.
Mhm.
I have to look into it. Maybe Scylla Conway might have some insight on it. I don't know. But then the Star Tarot second edition. Y'all know that one, right? Do you have that one?
Star Tarot? No.
No. Okay. Well, whoever, y'all know that first edition was trash. All right. The second edition, amazing, fantastic. I don't know why they keep doing this to us. I don't know if you can tell how uneven that cut is at the top.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Here's meanwhile, let me show you at least H.G. Mueller,
Mhm.
the Thoth, how that looks, if my camera will focus.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. Terrible camera. It'd be better with on my phone camera, but this ain't gonna shuffle well.
No.
That for sure. There's no core. I know that for a fact. Like I can feel it. Like it's very flimsy,
Hmm.
like thick, but like no support. And it's like you can just see how thick and chunky that riffle shuffle is.
Yeah.
You know, uh, versus I usually don't care, but that was just almost like let's come on, Schiffer, don't drop the ball on us yet. But for the most part, I don't care. Like if it's glossy, like I don't care. Like this is glossy
Hmm.
cardstock. I love this deck.
Yeah.
Either way, you can see the ring light on that, and so yeah, but yeah, I don't care. But if it's really noticeably bad, I'll point it out.
Um. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so when it's like really, really slippery, like I think it's the before and after tarot, those are kind of like really glossy, and it's like so much so when I'm shuffling, they are like flying everywhere, and that is something where I'm like, oh, they overdid it a little bit.
I
And
love a glidey cardstock. I love it when it's slippery, kind of in a way. A little annoying, yeah, but I like that. It makes thumbing through the cards much easier to find cards when I'm going like this.
that, yeah. But then again, you also probably have bigger hands than I do, so you can hold on to them. Like with me, it's like
Yeah.
spilling all over.
Yeah, they
Like
make
back
something
when I
more.
started with tarot, I would actually like I didn't do the overhand shuffling at first. Like I would put the cards face down on the table and I would just swish them around and do all of that because I didn't care about reversals and all of that. So however they came out, I would just flip them right side up. Anyways, so yeah, that's how I would do it. Make sure that they are shuffled really well because back then I didn't know like that I could actually do the whole riffle thing, and I didn't do that with the cards. And so then I would put them in a pile, and then I would do some overhand shuffling until I thought, okay, now it's ready. And then I would actually like pull the first 10 cards, do my Celtic cross, and do it that way. Now, when I'm like putting out a spread, I shuffle for each card until I think I got the right one. So
Yeah.
even that process has changed.
Yeah, I really have to get out of my head on like the right cards that I'm drawing. Like, is this the right one? Does this feel right? And it's like if it doesn't feel right, I feel like the reading is just I just get hung up on that. And I'm like, no, there should be a way to be able to just draw the cards and like, just detach
Oh.
yourself of that, in a way. Because overthinking it is just gonna this is gonna get in the way. But there are those
So,
times where like you do that and it's like you've got all the cards and you're like, this I'm getting nothing from this.
so how are you with your intuition? Like when you're shuffling the cards, the whole thing, like
It's
do you have an
I
intuitive way?
if it's my intuition, I really gotta speed it up because it takes I just shuffle out of habit, honestly.
Mm.
It's a thing. You hear me shuffling right now. It's just like a, a thing for my hands to do, while I'm, just
Mm.
so like when I'm doing readings, I forget that's what I'm not what I'm doing. I should just keep it to 3 and then just do that, but and ignore because I don't really care. I don't really care about intuition so much. I feel like a lot of people hype it up a lot, and I get it. It is helpful. It is a thing. It does work. I do not do ASMR. Okay.
But like listening to you shuffle, that's the thing.
Yeah, and it's like I should say I don't do ASMR yet. Because if I were to do, I'd be like, yeah, I would, but I put it behind a paywall. Y'all ain't gonna get that for free. Even though y'all get it for free on my live
I
reading.
like listening to your shuffle because like you can just do it so well and it just falls everything into place and it's just yeah, that's calming. It
Yeah,
really is.
it's after lot of practice. That's all it is, really. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then people will want to be like, I want you. Why aren't you talking, whisper, and all that? I'm like, I ain't gonna do that.
No, that whole whispering thing, I don't get
Yeah,
that. But
that's
like certain
apparently.
sounds, listening to that, if that counts as ASMR as well, or is that
Yeah,
really just specific to that whispering stuff?
it's like odd. I think it's something sensitive. I don't know. Point is that it's supposed to get you that tingly feeling, and you're supposed to
Mm.
feel like soothed by it, but also like it's like sort of like even though you shouldn't do this, and this is very dangerous, and it's apparently more bad for your ear to do this. But when you get the Q-tip and you clean inside your ear, and you scratch that spot in the ear, it's sort of like that, but sound. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that whispering, I never got into that, but like certain noises,
Hmm.
like that shuffling, that's just
Yeah.
excuse me. Yeah, that bronchitis is still kind of
Yeah, it's persistent.
yeah, like that stuff just takes forever. Like other stuff just goes away. Like even Miss Rona left me quicker than that.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's have you gotten an inhaler for it? That's probably what you
No,
need
no. Like
usually.
I a week ago, almost a week ago, I went to get an X-ray and I still don't have a result of that one. So we'll see. We'll see.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, So you have a few decks in your collection. Like, do you have specific decks for specific purposes? Or is it like
Uh,
whatever you feel like?
it's mostly whatever I feel like, but there are decks that I use. It's essentially decks I can read with, decks I can't read with yet, you know, or I need to study them to see if I can even try to read with them. There's like maybe four like that I have. Maybe.
That you don't read with yet?
Yeah, that I need to study to be able to read with. There's probably more, and but for the most part, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. I can read with it. I just don't want to read with it. you know, it's it's mostly that. But if there's decks that I can read with and I'm comfortable reading with, and I go to, they're usually here on my desk, right
Oh.
next to me, so I can have easy, quick access to them. Um, so yeah, but anything else, anything that's like for research, for reference, for or that I don't use that much. I put them on the shelves, far in storage more like areas, but still accessible in a way. So yeah.
So when you buy a deck, like what are you looking for in a deck? Like are there specific things that you want in a deck? Is it just like, oh, that looks interesting, let's try it?
Mostly that. It's mostly I want something interesting. That's why the first deck that I bought myself, it wasn't a Rider Waite Smith. It was the very first decks I got. My first paycheck. It was the Mariel Tarot and the Wildwood Tarot. So those are the first two that I got. It's just the weirdest, the most different looking ones, and everything else is just like filler in a way, or just like rehashing the Rider Waite Smith. And I was like, okay, I want something new. I want something fresh. I want something different. Excite me. If I'm not excited by it, I don't want it. you know, you know. Uh, that being said, it's like there are sometimes those decks that just seem very yet
Mhm.
simple yet like I don't know, like this is one of the best examples of this is the Fyodor Pavlov tarot. It's like so Rider
Mhm.
Waite Smith, like how I said, like it's just rehashing the Rider Waite Smith, but it's like at the time when I got it, uh, I backed it just because I don't know why, but just because I looked neat, looked cool. It reminded me of the Fez Moroccan tarot. That one I like too, but I don't have it. That's a unicorn that I want to get in my collection because it's like mostly black and white with like splashes of color in there, here and
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Uh, and so when I got it, it just for some reason it's just like, oh, I want to read with it. And for a while there, I wasn't really wanting to do live readings. But when I got it, I'm like, I have to do readings with this. This is like, I have to read with it. I'm not a big fan of the backs, but you know what? I guess it's kind of
Oh,
its own charm in a way. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't. But yeah,
Well,
it's
it's simple, elegant, not much
it's
to it, but
it's
yeah.
it's not trying to
Yeah.
reinvent the wheel. It's the same feeling I got with Tarot of the Sevenfold Mystery, even though I can't really read with it that well. But it's that same simple, not I don't know
Hmm.
what it is about it that like
It's pretty.
it's a gorgeous deck. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. It's just the aesthetics, everything. Anyways. Yeah. It's very rare for like those simplistic type of decks that, I can just gravitate toward and want to read with.
Yeah. Different people get drawn to different decks, different
hmm
energies.
hmm
So with that, how do you feel about the whole like tarot being so mass market now? Is that kind of like diluting from the whole spiritual side of it? Like when we look at like the Golden Dawn and like they did their stuff in secret, not too much out in the open. for people. And now, like, tarot is everywhere. You can just go to a bookstore, whether it's Barnes and Noble, whatever. You can even, like, over here at some grocery stores, you can find stuff. So is it like, is it still special? I don't know.
There's, I think, how do I go about this? I'm like, I'm like, because it's like the Golden Dawn thing with the secrecy and the Golden Dawn. It's like they believed that, spreading out knowledge would have made it less powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's one aspect. Second aspect is, oh, we have these secrets. You want to join? Okay, here's how much. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So then the third one is, there was a third one. I can't remember what about the secret, about keeping things secret and not allowing certain people, and probably elitism as well. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, but that's why. But with tarot, it's more like, with tarot they didn't really. Um, the thing is that the decks that they would put out and they would allow for, like, the Rider-Waite-Smith, that was still obscured and hidden enough that they were like, yeah, that's okay, you can put that out. And so what we're getting with the Rider-Waite-Smith isn't like all everything that we're getting. Like, that's not, or and they don't really explain it that much. Well, Waite doesn't with the Rider-Waite-Smith. But but with mass production and all that, there's so much to it that, like, it's like there's the over consumerism type of culture that we have that's kind of like diluting it in a way, because there's tons of decks that I don't work with. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, obviously it's like these decks are made to be worked with. They should be worked with. The most important thing about it isn't the card stock. It's about what you're getting out of it. It's about how you can work with it, how well it is as a deck. Because again, there's like some decks that just come out and I'm like, why is this popular?
Pretty
you know
pictures.
yeah, it's the pretty picture syndrome. It's like, it's I don't know. It's like, I can tell there are decks that are just being made because it's popular at the moment, and there are
Mm-hmm.
decks that are being made that are not very conscious of this imagery is being made to be read with and being made to do, for magical or mystical practices, which was kind of the intent, sort of, with the Rider-Waite-Smith and especially the Thoth. So those decks are, no imagery is really being done like that, as much as I can tell. There are a few exceptions here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but again, it's like, I don't know. It's like, you can, I can't. I had a whole thing about this, and I had it, but I'd have to get back to the mood in that, and like be able to, like, be like, this and oh, look at this, look at this. I'm seeing Lady Blind Wolf here saying, it's funny you should say that. I got into an argument with someone over consumerism in tarot because I got a Disney villains deck for Mother's Day, and it's like, I'm like, if
Mm-hmm.
that was a gift, it's like, that's one thing, but I gotta
Yeah.
say that Disney villains deck is just, honestly, it's just capitalism just trying to just profit off of these tools. And that's where we have to kind of think about, okay, as a collector's piece and as an object itself and as a piece of work that people worked on, illustrated, produced, yes, people need to be compensated for their work. However, there's another part of, the spiritual tool that you're making. I mean, it's kind of like, you don't hear this type of mentality and this overproduction on, uh, rosaries, or, like, I'm trying to think of other, like, tools that people use. Like, I guess prayer
Yeah.
mats in the Muslim community,
Mm-hmm.
you don't see those mass produced and sold to people, like, collect, like, these are, what else? I'm not sure how else to explain this, but it's different with tarot because it's like I said, not all of them are going to be used for. Some of them are more for historical references. Some of them are more for just, like, you know, again, studying historical references, but you know,
Mm.
it's like I'm not going to get the Disney villains deck and like expect the most profound and deepest symbolism and imagery from that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that probably from Marielle, the Thoth, the I don't know, Terror of the Holy Light, Journey into Egypt. You know, it's like, I mean, come on, you really cannot compare like Journey into Egypt to the Disney
No.
villains deck. Like, you cannot. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I can't believe people are gonna like. I Here's the thing. Now I'm getting into a thing. I'm getting into a rant here. So I'm still working on this. I just put it off because I got bored with it. Like I said, I get into something and I got bored with it. Katie Flowers did a tag, top 10 decks. Looking through all those decks, I see y'all. I see what y'all into. I got all the decks. I'm calculating the years that these decks come out. I'm surprised at how many are from the past 2 years that are entered into this list. And I'm like, these are
Mhm.
supposed to be your top 10 best most used decks. Granted, I also have to look at like the when these channels and when these people started doing tarot. That's something I also have to look into. But I'm just like, okay, but Spirit Keepers 3 was on there like so many times. I'm like, why is this here? Like, you guys, like, I know y'all aren't fully familiar with that deck to make it
Yeah.
to guarantee it that top 10 spot. But I'm like, you know what? I ain't gonna say nothing. You know, I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
be
think
like,
those top 10 lists are more like the visual aesthetics more than like actually like
yeah,
really diving into and working with it. Because I
yeah,
think if I would put that list together, I would have decks on there that I've had for quite a while, and then also like new ones. Like I think this, like my haunted house, I've had. I think I got it in 2019
mm-hmm,
or 2020. No, 2019. I
mm-hmm.
2020. Oh my god! Like with the past 2 years, I can't tell time anymore. Like everything is just
Oh
blurring
yeah,
together.
oh yeah. It was
Like, but I haven't had it for that long, but it's still the one that I use the most. But that's because I just like I really made it my own, and it's not
mm-hmm,
just like a deck that I put out. And like something else, like my very first one that I ever got in like the summer of 1999, that would also end up on my list because
mm-hmm.
um it was my very first one. But yeah, like most of the stuff, and I fall into that too. Like I got most of my decks after the summer of 2018. That's when I discovered TarotTube.
Mm-hmm.
Before then, between 1999 and 2018, I had 5 decks, and that was it. And I didn't know that there was this whole big tarot purchasing world out there. And once I found it, of course,
I
my
had to have
collection
all
got
of
bigger
them.
and bigger, and yeah, FOMO. Do you
Mm-hmm.
ever have FOMO? Did you ever experience that?
Sometimes, like for there's one. It's this artist in Hong Kong. She's saying that she's only doing the one edition as a limited edition. She just did a Kickstarter for her Lenormand called the Guai Lenormand, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna back the Lenormand. And I'm gonna get her tarot deck as an add-on as well because she had a Kickstarter for that because her tarot deck is gorgeous. Uh, and so I was like, okay, yeah, a little bit with that. You know, I was like, oh, I'll get it. I'll get it because it's like, you know what? I'm gonna be kicking myself because I didn't get it. And if I don't like it, I'm like fully prepared to receive it, not like it, and move it along. You know, that's where I'm at with FOMO, you know.
Hmm.
And that's yeah, so yeah, like again, like if I were to do that list, I did that list. I think I put in my entries. I don't think I did. No, I didn't do my video. I didn't do my VR officially, but I wouldn't put like these decks, which I love these decks, but I'm not going to put them in there because I don't work with them. And that's like this one by this is the Henry deck by Ocean Dry.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty.
you know, this one is I want to get the Rudolph. I want to see if he can hopefully do a Rudolph and I can trade something for that deck. You know, if I can, because
Hmm.
this one you can see like there's like stuff on it, but like original, like the artwork is under it,
Yeah.
So, yeah, which is the Rudolph deck underneath. And I would like to get that, but I'm not going to put that in that top 10 list because I don't,
So what would be in your top 10 list?
it'd be for sure, it'd be Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, and Marielle, and Terror of Delphi. And then it would be it'd probably be I don't know what else. I'm sure I had my list ready and I had it all done and figured out, but I'd probably put Fyodor Pavlov in there too. Probably Victorian Romantic, maybe. I'm not sure which specific one. Let me see what else.
Yeah, 4 more spots.
I know. I'm trying to think of what deserves to be there, and that's just it. Oh, right. I think it was also Oracle as well. So I'd throw in Devas of Creation.
Just decks.
Yeah. Devas of Creation. I'd put the Earthbound Oracle and probably the Illuminated Earth Oracle. And what would be the last one? I don't know. I guess just because it's one that like I've been like obsessing over for some reason. I feel like it's, I don't know. People are like kind of sleeping on it, and that's maybe like the White Newman. But honestly, those 9 for sure would be what's in my list. For sure,
Yeah. I'm impressed by how fast you could put that list together. Like, I would actually sit with my decks and be like, I think 5 of those would be probably easy picks, and the rest like, which one do I like more than others?
It's the ones that I reach for. It's the ones that I know I go to and I can rely on. Old reliable, is what I'm kind of taking that list as.
Yeah, I know I'm an enabler. And especially with a haunted house, it's my deck. People who've been on my channel for a while know that I read with that one, so that's like my go-to. It's not, I wouldn't call it my soul deck, that soul deck name, because that one is actually this one. But that's because it's a German deck made by a German about a German culture. So this hits home for me, and this represents where I'm from, and it's also like the time, the 80s, the 90s, like my childhood, my teenage time. So that's why this is my soul deck, even though I don't read with it that much. But yeah, this is home. That's why I call this my soul deck. And I guess in second place would be then my haunted house. If soul deck means the one that you just don't want to be without anymore.
Yeah, going on to those terms, I showed this before. I'd probably say like the Great Bible Tarot for some reason.
Yeah,
as well,
that one's
just
really
because it's again.
But
it's
I thought the Hangman card is a bit on the nose, isn't
it? Yeah, I mean, think about it as an archetype. He kind of, I mean, he did. I mean,
well, when you showed that last time, I was like,
does he not count?
Yeah.
Like again, like what's on the nose to me is a bat on the hanged man. It's like it counts still though, but like kind of, what was it? Yeah, here's the Queen of Cups.
Yeah, but did he really get a new perspective from it?
I mean, he literally came back to life. I mean, did he? I'm not sure. He suffered.
Yeah.
He suffered. That's a perspective.
Yeah.
He hella suffered.
And that always takes me to that, was it Jesus Christ Superstar? That one song that he sings to his dad, like, why? Just why do you make me do this? And then at the end, it's like, oh well, guess I have to.
Yeah. Let's see. What else? There was another one. I was gonna say this one. I like again, like if I were to be like answering those top 10 questions like those other people. I'm just kidding. No tea, no shade, no pink lemonade. I'm like, oh, I feel bad, but I'm like, I'm not fully comfortable with it yet. It's the Yohuali Ehecatel. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation on that, but it's all Aztec, Mexica depictions of in the tarot. So it's all like, again, native Mexican, uh, depictions in there,
Hmm.
and mythologies, which I've never been able to learn anything on that. It was mostly Christian biblical mythology and Greek Roman mythology, you know. Uh, which I was like, okay, but what about this mythology? You know, uh, but
So, Sitses, I have to say, what kept me from getting into tarot about 10 years was strict gender lines that people would teach. Irritated. Well, well, for me, like, I actually kind of liked those lines because, like, I need some kind of like structure and boundaries in a way. For me, that's just like how I think. And when I saw decks that completely switched those things around, I was a bit irritated by that because I was like, okay, I have those archetypes and I see them a certain way, so that kind of, yeah,
yeah,
tickles my brain a bit.
I'm just trying to show the chat what it
Yeah,
is. Take a
it's very
screenshot.
difficult.
Take a screenshot so you can write it down. So yeah, because it's a mouthful. Or just look up Corazon Mexica. You see, yeah, and that's there. You can find out more about it. Come on, focus camera. You're not going to focus? There we go.
Here it is.
You just had to make it gold.
So shiny.
Yeah, it's now in a hard 2-part box. So if you don't
Wow.
like the tuck box, but I got it first, the first edition. I was there. I pre-ordered. I was not gonna wait. But yeah, where else? What else? I'm not sure. But obviously, loving Greek mythology, Tarot of Delphi, that was also another one that could fit into that. But anyways, on the gender stuff, it's like I think there should be, I think the tarot always kind of, played with gender, and I think a lot of people just like restrict and impose a lot of that gender binary onto it. Like, again, like, if you have to understand that, like, again, if you can't read the King of Cups or the King of Wands or the King of Swords as a woman, as representing a woman in a querent's life, it's like, how good of a reader are you? Because it's like, these all 78 cards can be represented into every single person
Oh.
in the world. So it's like any of the 78 cards can represent that person, so it's like, so just because a man comes in and gets a reading and you get the Empress and the Queen of Cups and the and I'm trying to think of all the other like strongly feminine cards,
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he, like, you can go many places with this. You can either say, oh, you have another woman in your life, or, oh, there's a woman coming to you, or whatever, and perpetuate that heteronormativity onto him. Or you're going to say, oh, well, it seems here that you might be identifying as a woman. It's like, okay, like, let's not go that far. Like, let's,
Oh.
you don't want to, don't be that person, or, it's like, oh, well, the Empress is creation, the Queen of Cups is very intuitive and internal looking, she is water of water, she's very in tune with her emotions, she's comfortable in the emotional realm. This is someone that's very in tune with his emotions, and he's very sensitive, you know though back in the day, saying that was kind of like, shady side-eye type of, like, low-key way of saying that he was, like,
Oh.
but you know uh
Oh.
but again, it's like,
Yeah.
but again,
It
there's
it
cards
took
that,
me. a while to get with that whole thing, because I would like in the beginning when I was like learning tarot, of course I saw the cards for what they were. So if there was a king, then of course this was talking about a man, and that's just how I write with my cards. And like for me it was this process of realizing like my own energy, and my birth card is the Hierophant, which
Mhm.
for the longest time I had a problem with that because of like the popish kind of depiction, and it took some other decks to kind of make peace with that, where he's not depicted as a pope and more like as a high priest.
Mhm.
And then like especially during the last 2 years I have like really um gotten to know myself a lot more. And I found out, especially with this whole like Gemini, like switching the signs from like I always perceive the Cancer as like the more feminine and like soft thing, and the Gemini like more hard and structured kind of thing. And it makes sense. Like for the longest time, like I have actually lived in this masculine energy, and like now like slowly discovering the own like feminine energy in me. I have to
Mhm.
say I prefer the masculine side in me, like the way of thinking and kind of going about it, and leaving feelings out of stuff when I look at things, and
Yeah.
like moving into my own feminine energy and like really embracing it. That shit's hard.
Yeah.
So I like the Hierophant actually makes a lot of sense for me in that sense, and that just broke open everything and like how I look at like energies and stuff.
Mhm.
But it was a soul searching process.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. My dog wants to. My dog wants
Uh,
to get off the bed.
well,
Oh, Papers.
so let's see.
There you go.
Yeah, diversity. Uh, here, Native American ducks because I'm of Native American ancestry, and then my kid got the Centimerative for for my birth. I can't read; it's too early. For my birthday a few years ago, but then again, I work with Centimerative. Oops, that just jumped. Yeah, totally agree, Zach. But the people who believe and would teach tarot didn't always believe that way. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a process. Like society is always changing, and we
It's
either stay stuck in what we were or we go with the
because
flow.
it's like it's so interesting because they'd have cards like Temperance and the Fool and the World, and those would be like very like non-binary, gender fluid,
Mhm.
type of figures, and yet they couldn't, like, again, for people to like perpetuate and like uh, instill like the gender binary onto the rest of the cards. It's like, okay, but it's like some cards it's like, okay, yeah, that's this one's like purely quote unquote masculine, but again it's like it's understanding that you're gonna have a one out of, if you're gonna do one card draws for people, you're gonna have a 1 out of 78 chance of pulling any of the cards for any person. So it's like you best start getting flexible with your, you know, the with the social construct that is gender, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah.
I tend to use several decks when I'm doing a reading for a person and try to match those decks with the person's energies and what I know they're into. Yeah. Do you use multiple decks in one reading? Do you layer?
Maybe I'll do a tarot, and then I'll do like maybe one card for an oracle.
Hmm.
Um, and then I'll, if it's timing, just out of curiosity, I have yet to hear back from anyone on, on its accuracy. But the only time will tell oracle, I'll throw that out maybe
Mm-hmm.
if the question pertains to time. Um, but for the most part, it's probably like two decks will be in a
Hmm.
reading, will feature in a reading, you know, at a time. That's the max. I don't do like three or a bunch. No.
But do you put like two tarot decks together, or is it always like tarot and oracle?
No, it's always a tarot and an oracle. I feel like it's I think it's more that would be more of a fun exercise. But for serious reading, I haven't tried that yet. So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe
So
one day.
what's your tarot practice? Like, do you just read for other people? Do you ever get the cards out for yourself and just like do some kind of pretend reading or something to exercise? Like, what do you do?
I mostly do readings for others. Rarely do I read for myself. Very rarely. And so that's yeah. I'll do if there are exercises in a journal in a guidebook that I'm following, I'll do the exercises, and those are always fun to do. Um, but this just for the most part, it's mostly for other people on my live
Hmm.
streams. You see them.
Yeah. Can I ask why you don't read for yourself? You just don't want to know, or
It's more like this is
because it's
why I
not
think
just like looking
this
into
is
the
why I
future,
think
it's also like looking into the past or
yeah,
something? Like,
it's more it's more like I feel like I know enough already. Like I know how to process the situation. I know how to like in a way like I know what to expect. I don't know. I feel like I just don't need to go to advice for the tarot in that sense. I
hmm.
don't feel the need to go to advice for the tarot that much. You know, but I guess in general, we'll see. I'll have to get back to you.
Or even to get to know yourself from a different side. Like, for example, like past life readings. You don't do those, do you?
No, no, no. I what I see, I think I'm just too much of a critic to like really want to hear anything else. I judge myself too much enough that I'm like, okay, now let's use the tarot too. Not because it's like, oh yeah, I'm afraid of getting like the Tower or the Three of Swords or the
Um,
Seven of Swords. And I was like, no, I am that. Yeah, I know. You don't have to tell me. Like, that's what it is. It's sort of like, yeah, I know. You don't have that's what it is, I think, more than anything. You know.
hmm.
Um I I guess in terms of like dealing with anxiety, I might use it, recently with dating and social media anxiety and communication anxiety, I would call it. I think one of the times I don't know what I did. I just pulled a card. I was like, let me see. And of course, temperance shows up. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, chill, relax, patience, Zach, and
Hmm.
and yeah, it was like, yeah, of course, so that maybe moving forward, because it's like I live a very sheltered life, a self-imposed sheltered life, I'd say, that now that I'm putting myself out there, it's more so that the anxiety is like spiking up, and that self-consciousness is really showing. I'm like, okay, now I see why people read for themselves, but this is only like within the past month. So,
Hmm.
we'll see how this develops. I may start using the tarot more. So ask me next year and I'll probably be like, yeah, I use the tarot all for myself. So who knows? We'll see.
So you don't really do any like shadow work stuff with the tarot for yourself?
That I do want to start doing. That I would like to start doing, because yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm like, why am I? Yeah, absolutely, I would do, because I've been taking Natalia's shadow work course, and it's just, I think I finished it. Did I finish it? I think I finished it. I'm gonna go back over and go through it again and find a find a find a find a trigger and do the shadow work on that,
Hmm.
as she explains in her course. It's yeah, it's and do that. That's what I would that yeah, that I would do in terms of reading for myself.
So what does shadow work for you look like? Like, what would it be? Like, just like psychological aspect, like
More
taking
the
everything apart?
more the psychological, more the because again the shadow work is again working on things that I react in a certain way towards, or again just from again taking Natalia's course. This is what I'm getting it from. It's essentially how whatever makes you react in whatever way, and you're not really sure why. It's just almost instinctual how you react,
Mhm.
in a way. Um, and you get, and you focus on that memory and you work on it, and there's a whole spread to it, and you work through it. Um, and it's mostly figuring out what deep within your subconscious is making you react this way in a defensive manner, is making your ego go into defense mode and go into into police mode. That's mostly it, because again, there are times where I'm like, oh, well, why did I act like that?
Mhm.
Or why am I like this, or why did I not do this? And
Yeah.
that's mostly why. And the thing is, it's mostly something that you're unaware of, something you're
Mhm.
you're kind of you're kind of blind to in a way. It's not necessarily, because if you're aware of something and it's a negative trait about yourself, and it's not something you're proud of, that's not shadow. You already
Yeah.
know it. It's exposed. It's in your consciousness. It's no longer shadow
Mhm.
work, or it's something. And even then, something that makes you happy, or it's a positive quality about yourself. You know, and you're aware of it. That's, again, that can also come from the shadow as well. So it's not all doom and gloom, just because people. I think it's because people hear shadow and they think darkness.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, no, it's not that.
It's
It's
kind of like the Jedi thing. Search your feelings.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, we always think of emotions in the suit of cups as, just pure, like, we kind of instinctually want to go to romance and love and joy, but it's also like sadness and anger and hatred and envy uh insecurity as well. It's any emotion, any of the emotions,
Mhm.
can show up in
Yeah. Well,
that.
we've got love, we've got fear, and everything in between.
Fear, that's another one I keep forgetting. That's one that's, yeah.
Mm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also grew up like thinking like hate is the opposite of love, but no, it's fear,
Oh,
and like hate and
yeah.
everything comes from fear, the
Mm,
unknown, and what to do
mhm.
with
Yeah.
it, and all of that. So that kind of, it took me a while to wrap my head around that, but that was, yeah, my uncle, he like his spirituality is quantum physics and explaining the world through that.
Mhm.
So yeah, he kind of brought me to realizing that. But yeah, and sometimes with like shadow work for me, it's something that I like to do, since I still see people talking about like using multiple decks.
Mhm.
I actually like using different tarot decks together. For
Mhm.
example, when I do past life readings, I have two decks that I always use together.
Mhm.
One is for the outside perspective, how
Mhm.
in that lifetime people saw me in that life. And then I
Mhm.
have a second deck that I use with the same exact spread, but for the inside perspective, like how did I really feel about this? And then comparing
Oh.
those and see if that actually makes sense to get a better image of who that person could have been, whether past life things were real or not. I don't know, but to get a better understanding of this personality that I'm reading on. And then I use that to compare that to my life right now and kind of find like the thread that would go through many different lifetimes. Or I also have a spread where I use one deck for each lifetime, and I would compare like three lifetimes together. And the reason why I'm using different decks is so that I can see if I have learned my lesson, kind of. So if the same card keeps coming up again and again, I know,
Mhm.
okay, there's still something that I need to work on. And
Mhm.
so that's why I like to use multiple decks for like especially past life readings, or like looking into outside and inside perspective, comparing those. So I kind of like, something that I like to combine is the like the Hermetic tarot with the RWS. Like
Mm.
I like using those, like one for inside, one for outside, and seeing what that gives me and
Mm.
how I
How
feel about with them.
Yeah, do you use the correspondences much with those? Because that'd be interesting to see, like, in a past life, You know, like if it's like millennia back, and seeing like, oh, when like we mentioned, like I mentioned before, the sun rising in Taurus type of stuff, you know, that
No,
era.
I don't get into astrology with that at all. Because I
Interesting.
like when I do the past life stuff, I also like for me, I know time is just a human concept, and past life, like for me, time is not linear. So my next life, my next incarnation could be in medieval times. Like it's like more like a
Oh,
circle, and you
okay.
can go to
Yeah,
anywhere.
because I was because I think because it's like the concept of, you know, of the soul, like again kind of touching on that, like it's sort of repetitive. Yeah, it's and it's I I'm sorry. It's like tickling my forehead. I need to get it cut. Anyways,
Hmm.
it's, and you know, seeing like certain like astrological patterns in a way, because that's the thing that people, that's what it is. That's what I'm getting at, is that, you know, the zodiac wheel is viewed as that ring or that Ouroboros that is time keeping us here trapped and like repeating and making us relearn things in a way, until the lesson, to make sure the lesson sticks, you know. uh, and that kind of ties into that somehow. That I wonder if that ties into that in some way with, again, the correspondences and the astrology there, and with the tarot as well. So yeah, maybe because, but the
Yeah, I never thought of like past life stuff in terms of astrology, because if I think that like like my next incarnation could be in medieval times, I also think like everything is happening at the same time. Like there is no past or future. It's like it's all happening
yeah.
right now. So there could be multiple incarnations of me learning different lessons in different lifetimes for different reasons,
Hmm.
in different bodies and different cultures in different religions, whatever. And like my spiritual belief is that I choose those things because I want to learn specific lessons. My soul does, my essence, whatever that is. And so like in this life right now, I'm here and having a certain experience like this. I know like part of the whole like feminine energy and all of that, and also, I already know in this lifetime I will never be a mother, even though I was born as a woman, and this is kind of like what women do. But I will never be a mother. I have different things that I'm learning about with like my femininity, sexuality, all of that kind of stuff. But motherhood will not be one of them. That is for other lifetimes where I'm experiencing certain things. And yeah, so I have different lessons everywhere with
Hmm.
different incarnations.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And also that I chose to now have a life with just a mother and not a father in the picture. So having a different family constellation, whereas
Mhm.
in other lifetimes I did have both parents, or I do, like if everything's happening at the same time.
Have you seen that? I don't know. I'm not sure if you have this movie that came out just a while ago. It was uh it, I was gonna jokingly say Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, but no, I'm actually seriously though. The movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, and
Yeah.
it's all, oh girl, it's all about that. It's all literally like different versions of herself in different timelines, in different places, in different, you know, and like it's interesting. I haven't seen it. I just saw the
Mm,
trailer and it looks
I have to
insane.
look it up.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, because like maybe some of the like dreams that we have of us in different lifetimes were maybe, I mean, it's a theory, just connecting with our other parts and what they are experiencing right now. So I did
It's
have one dream that was, I think I was a teenager or something when I had that, but that kind of stuck with me, where I was actually burnt at the stake. And when I woke up, it felt like I could still kind of feel like my body was like really sore and in pain and stuff. Like I didn't feel the burns, but it felt like as if something had happened,
Mm.
and it was like very weird because I never really when I don't dream, or I don't remember my dreams that much, but that one was very vivid, and I remember I was really afraid and everything as if this was really happening. So maybe in another lifetime, one part of me experienced that.
You were being heretical. You were asking the back then. You were asking the same questions you're asking now.
Yeah.
And
But
that's why.
one pattern that I found with past life readings is that I seem to have this at least over 3 lifetimes that I found so far. This one and 2 other ones where I come from a very like mundane Muggle family,
Mm.
and that is more about like the real world and making money and all of that kind of stuff. But I seem to choose spirituality over everything else, and my
Mm.
family doesn't seem to be too happy with that, at least in past lifetime. In this lifetime, my family is actually encouraging that, and is like, oh yeah, tell us more. And my family, like now they're asking me for readings and doing all that stuff, and also with the witchy stuff, my mom has asked me to like make some rituals for her that she can do, and all of
Mm.
that. So as opposed to in past lives where I was like shunned by my family for doing that because I would not go the Muggle way. I would either like go into a monastery or something and really do the spiritual stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
this lifetime, I'm actually being encouraged to go that way.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do differently now that you're being encouraged rather than shy?
Yeah, well, now I can have my family with me in that whole process, and I
Hmm.
don't have to choose between those
Hmm.
two. Like I can actually um, enjoy it and not have to feel guilty about it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. The shame. Yeah, shame is that's an interesting. That's another emotion, and that
Mm.
somehow I bet you that does have its again ties that makes that is probably a lesson that you're trying to learn. I think we're all trying to learn throughout throughout our lives. Uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Shame is a big, big emotion.
Hmm. So yeah.
Just looking at the chat that we have here.
There was a lot going on. I was seeing.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, so
So anything else you want to
oh,
ask me?
I still have lots of questions on my, but maybe we can uh pick this up at another time and continue that. We've been on for over 1.5 hours now.
All right.
Um, unless there's anything that you still or want to know, like any questions you have.
No, honestly, again, as always, I'm very unprepared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my Gemini side. I always have to be prepared. I mean, I worked as a journalist, so I always have to prepare my questions, everything. That's just like that investigative mind.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to. This is why I think I'm. Well, I guess Pisces is also very unprepared as well,
Mm.
but I feel like Aries more so. It's more like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna do it. It's
Just
just
gonna
gonna,
wing it. But
just
I
gonna go
envy
for
that, like people who can just spontaneously do that, like even with your lives when you're just chatting, and those end up being 4 hours. Like what? Without preparation? How do you do that? I want to do that too.
It's mostly it's I know people were gonna bring up topics that I'm gonna go on
Mm.
rants on, and that's what it is. But for the most part though, it's I'm again I usually cut those out of my channel, now. So I usually just, I usually now I'm just trying to pick a topic, have my focused thoughts on it, and make that the topic of discussion for the live stream these days.
Mm.
And moving away from just, I'm bored, I have nothing better to talk about. Let's see what I'm just, yeah, whatever, yeah, we just because we know we got this. And that's the thing.
Yep.
I don't know if I got it.
No.
I just do it because I have nothing better to do.
Like for me, the Cancer in me definitely don't got it, because like way too introverted for that, and the Gemini needs to be prepared. So this is my preparation.
Yeah, I was like,
You
yeah,
got questions and questions and all of that, just to make sure that there is something to fall back on, just like a safety net, kind of, in a way.
yeah, absolutely.
But for the most part, I mean, like this conversation barely touched on the stuff that's written on my notes, so
I can only
that's good.
Now I really want to know what's on those notes. What did you want to ask me?
Well, then maybe we have to do this another time, and then I'll ask you the questions.
Yes, another time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so thank you very much for coming on my channel and chatting a bit. I really enjoyed this. And thank you to everyone who was here in the chat with us, and to everyone who's going to watch this back. And yeah, today over here in Germany, we have a holiday. It's Men's Day, so we don't have to work. And it's also some like Christian, like Jesus going to heaven kind of whatever holiday.
His ascension.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I was looking for the word. And so yeah, they paired that with Men's Day. How they got to that idea, I don't know, but that's a good thing. We don't have to work, so it's a free day for me. And
I was like, is Women's Day when Mary was
Women's Day and Mother's Day are always on Sundays for some reason. Men's Day is on a Thursday. Father's Day, I think, is also on a Sunday. I think. And so yeah, but the women are always put on a Sunday when people don't have to work anyways. At least in Germany, people don't work on Sundays. And yeah,
just pick a number. Make it on Friday, Venus Day.
Yeah.
Why not that?
But like, I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know who put that on Sundays. Like, I never really looked into the history of these holidays. But yeah, today is the day when, like, traditionally, most people would get on their bikes because there's a lot of alcohol involved. So people are not driving their cars, and especially like, I come from a smaller town, and like everyone would be like going on their bike tours with friends, and they would have like these things that you can attach to your bike, where you can have like a cart, and you just put like the entire beer thing and everything in there, and then they go to like a beach or something and just barbecue, drink, all that kind of stuff. Like that's the day.
Oh my God, I hate the infrastructure here in America. That bikes. You must be desperate.
No, because like when you're riding a bike, you could still, even though you would, like, if the police catches you drunk on a bike, you will lose your driver's license.
Here's the thing. That's impossible to do anywhere here in America, unless maybe you're in New York. Maybe it's so crowded. I mean, how would you ride your bike? I feel, but here where I'm at, like, no, you put your car in your bike. Imagine you put your bike in your car, you drive to the park, and then you ride your bike.
Oh my God.
That's how you get, especially right now where it's like it's 10:44 and it's 83 degrees Fahrenheit here. I don't know what that is to Celsius, but
it's warm.
It's fucking hot. So yeah, but thankfully I sense my parents have blessed my room with AC, so hopefully that lasts throughout the night. So yeah, well, I guess that's it, right? Anything else? Right? No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world right now, and maybe we'll see you again soon. Until then, have a good day, and bye bye.
Bye bye.